When my husband Justin casually announced, "I invited Dakota to your sister's wedding," she practically raised me. "If you love me, you'll understand," I kissed his cheek and said, "Of course, honey." What he didn't know was that I'd already tracked down her husband Everett and invited him as my guest. The reception at the Ashford Estate became a night neither of them would ever forget. The announcement came between my mother's famous garlic roasted chicken and my father's second pour of Merlot. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're a subscriber, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Just another Friday night dinner at my parents' townhouse in Georgetown, the kind of ritual our family had maintained for 20 years. My sister Millie was going over last-minute wedding details, her wedding planner binder open on the table, color-coded tabs sticking out like a rainbow. "By the way," Justin said, reaching for the bread basket with the casual confidence of a man who thought he'd already won, "I invited Dakota to the wedding." The room didn't exactly go silent. My father kept chewing. My mother's hand paused halfway to her wine glass. But Millie's fork stopped midair, a piece of asparagus dangling. "Dakota," Millie repeated slowly. "Your ex-girlfriend Dakota?" "She's not just an ex," Justin said, and I watched him deploy that smile he used in sales meetings. The one that said, "Trust me, I'm about to make perfect sense." She practically raised me after my mom died. We met at Georgetown freshman year. She was there for the hardest years of my life. She's basically family. This was fascinating. In the 3 years we'd been married, Justin had mentioned Dakota exactly twice. Once to say they'd dated in college. Once to say she'd moved to Austin and they'd lost touch. There had been no mention of her practically raising him, or being basically family. "I don't remember meeting her," my mother said carefully. She had that tone she used when she was trying to be polite but was actually calling bullshit. "That's because she left right after college," Justin explained, buttering his bread with meticulous attention. "Took a job with some tech startup. We lost touch for years, but she recently moved back to DC. She reached out a few months ago, and we've been catching up." A few months ago. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. 3 months ago, Justin had joined a new gym. Started working late on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Bought cologne I didn't recognize. "Where does she live now?" I asked, keeping my voice light and interested. "Georgetown, actually. That new development near the waterfront." He looked at me then, his eyes holding something I'd never seen before. "A challenge, maybe. Or a test. I knew you'd understand, Chelsea. You're not the jealous type." "The jealous type." As if recognizing your husband's lies was about jealousy rather than basic pattern recognition. My sister Millie, who'd been planning this wedding for 18 months, looked like she wanted to stab him with her salad fork. "Justin, I don't know if we have room on the seating chart." "I already checked with your wedding planner," he interrupted smoothly. "There's space at table 7. Dakota won't be any trouble. She just wants to celebrate with people who matter to me." I felt my sister's eyes on me, asking the silent question, "What the hell is happening?" But I just smiled and squeezed Justin's hand. "That's so thoughtful of you to include her," I said. "I'm sure she'll love the Ashford Estate. Millie's worked so hard on every detail." Justin relaxed immediately, probably thinking he'd successfully neutralized any potential drama. He went back to discussing the Nationals' pitching rotation with my father, completely at ease. What Justin didn't know, what nobody at that table knew except me, was that I'd found Dakota Meyer's Instagram account 4 days ago. I'd scrolled through 2 years of her life in reverse. The luxury gym selfies tagged at the same location as Justin's new gym. The restaurant check-ins at places he'd claimed to have client dinners. The coffee shop photos from a cafe 6 blocks from his office, posted at 7 a.m. on Tuesday and Thursday mornings. And most importantly, I'd found her wedding photos from 3 years ago. Dakota Meyer married to Everett Sullivan, a patent attorney with kind eyes and a smile that didn't quite reach them in recent photos. While my family made uncomfortable small talk about wedding favors and seating arrangements, my phone buzzed in my clutch beside me. I already knew what it was. I'd sent Everett Sullivan a message 2 days ago through LinkedIn. Professional, brief, devastating. I think we should compare notes about our spouses' Tuesday and Thursday schedules. His response had come this morning. I've been hoping someone would finally say that. When can we meet? I looked at my husband across the table, watching him charm my parents with stories about Dakota's supposed maternal role in his life, and I felt something shift inside me. Not anger, exactly. Something colder and more precise. Justin, I said sweetly, why don't you give Dakota my number? I'd love to welcome her personally. Maybe we could meet for coffee before the wedding. His eyes flickered with something, surprise, maybe concern, before he recovered. That's not necessary, babe. I don't want you to go to any trouble. No trouble at all, I assured him. After all, if she's basically family, I should get to know her. He had no choice but to agree. Around us, my family exchanged uncertain glances, sensing the undercurrents but not understanding them. Only Millie looked at me with dawning recognition. She knew me well enough to know that tone. That particular smile. My baby sister was getting married in 3 weeks at the most exclusive venue in Virginia. And my husband had just made the catastrophic mistake of thinking I was too trusting, or too stupid, to see what was right in front of me. He wanted Dakota at the wedding? Fine. She'd be there. But so would Everett Sullivan. And by the time the reception ended, everyone would understand exactly what kind of family reunion this really was. My maiden name had been Ford, Chelsea Ford, before I became Chelsea Harrison 3 years ago. Soon, I'd be Chelsea Ford again. And Justin would understand exactly what he'd lost. I met Everett Sullivan at a coffee shop in Alexandria, far enough from Georgetown that we wouldn't accidentally run into anyone we knew. He was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table with 2 untouched lattes and the exhausted look of someone who'd been carrying a secret too heavy for one person. Chelsea, he said, standing to shake my hand. His grip was firm but his palm was slightly sweaty. Nervous energy radiated off him like heat. Thank you for meeting me. I sat down, wrapping my hands around the warm cup he'd ordered for me. I wasn't sure you'd respond to my message. I've been waiting for this conversation for 3 months, he said quietly. I just didn't know how to start it. We stared at each other for a moment, 2 strangers bound by the specific humiliation of being married to liars. Then, almost simultaneously, we both pulled out our phones. Tuesday and Thursday mornings, I said, opening my Photos app. Justin started going to the gym at 6 a.m. Never goes on weekends. Never mentions it. Comes home not sore, not tired, just distracted. Everett nodded grimly. Dakota has early client meetings every Tuesday and Thursday. She's in marketing, works from home most days, but suddenly these meetings require her to be out of the house by 6:30 a.m. She comes back at 9, perfectly made up, smelling like expensive coffee. Capital grind, I said, showing him a screenshot from Dakota's Instagram. She posted this 2 weeks ago. Best way to start a Tuesday. There's a reflection in the window. You can see someone's arm. Man's watch. Silver band. I pulled up a photo of Justin from last month. Same silver watch band visible in his gym selfie. Everett's jaw tightened. He swiped through his own phone. Credit card statement. 3 charges at Capital Grind in the past month. $40 each time. Dakota only drinks black coffee. Costs maybe $4. They're having breakfast, I said. Not a question. Breakfast at minimum. He pulled up another statement. The Watermark Hotel. $350 charge, March 15th. Dakota said she was at a marketing conference downtown that day. Justin had an emergency client meeting, I said, my voice flat. Said he'd be unreachable all afternoon. We spent the next hour comparing evidence like detectives working a case. His credit card statements matched my calendar of Justin's late nights. Her Instagram locations aligned with his supposed business dinners. Every lie she told had a corresponding lie from Justin, Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Two separate stories that formed one cohesive timeline of betrayal. They're not even being careful, Everett said, something like admiration creeping into his voice despite himself. It's like they think we're too stupid to notice. Or too trusting. I showed him the most damning piece of evidence. This is from Dakota's Instagram, posted 6 weeks ago. Girls' night at Bourbon Steak. But look at the time stamp. 9:47 p.m. And look at the reflection in her wine glass. Everett leaned in, squinting at the image. In the curved reflection of the wine glass, barely visible but definitely there, was a man's dress shirt. Blue and white checkered pattern. I pulled up another photo. Justin at my cousin's birthday party, wearing the same blue and white checkered shirt. The one he'd bought specifically for client presentations. Jesus, Everett breathed. She tagged the location but not the people. Posted it as girls' night, but it was clearly a date. I took a long sip of my now cold latte. How long have you known? Suspected? 3 months. Known for certain? He rubbed his face. 2 weeks ago, I found texts. She'd renamed his contact Natasha, her work friend. But the conversation was, there was no mistaking what they were. Did you confront her? Almost. I had my phone in my hand, screenshots ready, and then I just... He trailed off. I couldn't do it. Once I say it out loud, once it's real, then my marriage is over. As long as I don't confront her, I can keep pretending everything's fine. I understood that completely. The limbo of knowing but not acting. The strange comfort of living in the lie just a little bit longer. Justin invited Dakota to my sister's wedding, I said. Announced it at family dinner like it was completely normal. Said she practically raised him and is basically family. Everett's laugh was bitter. Dakota told me she has a work event that weekend. Said she'd be in Baltimore for a conference. Let me guess, the wedding is in Baltimore? Virginia. Ashford Estate. It's a luxury vineyard venue about an hour from D.C. I watched his face carefully. Here's what I'm thinking. Justin wants Dakota at my sister's wedding? Fine. She can come. But you should come too. As my +1. The silence stretched between us. Somewhere behind the counter, the espresso machine hissed and gurgled. A couple at the next table laughed about something on their phone. You want to expose them, Everett said finally. Publicly. In front of your entire family. I want them to face what they've done, I corrected. I'm tired of being the only one who knows. I'm tired of watching Justin charm my parents while planning his weekend with your wife. I'm tired of the performance. It'll destroy both our marriages. Our marriages are already destroyed, I said quietly. We just haven't admitted it yet. They destroyed them. Every breakfast date, every hotel room, every lie. We're just the last ones to know. Everett stared at his untouched latte. I could see him processing, weighing the consequences. The comfortable lie versus the devastating truth. What exactly do you have in mind? He asked. I pulled out my sister's wedding invitation from my bag. Formal, elegant, with gold embossed lettering. I slid it across the table. The reception starts at 6 p.m. Cocktail hour, then dinner, then dancing. Justin and Dakota will probably arrive separately to avoid suspicion. They'll think they're being discreet, stealing moments while everyone's distracted by the wedding. And then I walk in. And then you walk in. With me. We don't make a scene. We don't confront them immediately. We just exist. Together. Let them see us. Let them realize we know. Let them understand that their secret is about to become very, very public. In front of 200 wedding guests. In front of everyone who matters to them, I confirmed. My entire family. All of Millie's friends. Justin's colleagues, his boss is invited. Everyone who thinks we're happy couples. Everett looked at the invitation for a long moment. Then he looked at me. You're sure about this? There's no going back once we do it. There's already no going back, I said. The question is whether we keep living in their lie, or we choose to live in the truth. He picked up his latte finally, took a long drink, and then extended his hand across the table. I'm in. I need to take you back to where this actually started. Not Friday night's dinner announcement, but 3 weeks before that. The moment when my comfortable ignorance shattered into 1,000 pieces I'd spend the next month carefully collecting. It was a Wednesday afternoon. I was working from home, reviewing contract proposals for the consulting firm where I'm a project manager. Justin texted around 2 p.m., emergency meeting with the Singapore investors. Might be home late. Don't wait up. Normal enough. He'd been working on this Singapore deal for months. Except I'd seen his calendar that morning when he left his laptop open. The Singapore call was scheduled for 9 a.m., already completed before he left for the office. I stared at that text for probably 10 minutes. There was a perfectly reasonable explanation, I told myself. The meeting got rescheduled. Something came up. He just forgot to update me. But my hands were already opening Instagram, typing the Dakota Meyer into the search bar. I don't even know why I thought of her. Maybe because he'd mentioned her name in his sleep 2 nights earlier. Just once, mumbled in a dream, but it had stuck with me like a splinter. Her profile had been public until recently, probably Dakota getting paranoid. Now it was private. So I created a fake Instagram account, generic name, stock photo, no followers, and requested to follow her. She accepted within an hour. Her bio said, "Living my best life," with a champagne emoji. Fashion marketing executive, based in D.C. The most recent post was from that very afternoon, 2 hours earlier. It was a photo of a coffee cup at Capitol Grind, the expensive place in Georgetown. The caption read, "Afternoon pick-me-up before the evening strategy session." Evening strategy session. Justin's emergency meeting. I told myself I was being paranoid. Lots of people have strategy sessions. It was probably a coincidence. But I clicked through her posts anyway, scrolling back through weeks of perfectly curated content. There. March 15th. A photo of her at some restaurant, soft lighting, dressed up. Business dinner with the dream team, the location tag said the Watermark Hotel restaurant. I opened my banking app with shaking hands. Searched for March 15th. There it was, the Watermark Hotel, $350. Justin had told me he was taking a potential client to dinner that night. He'd come home at midnight smelling like wine and saying the deal looked promising. I kept scrolling. Her gym selfies, always posted at 6:30 a.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. The same days Justin started his new, early morning workout routine. Her check-ins at Bourbon Steak, Fiola Mare, RPM Italian, every single one matched a night Justin had claimed to be at client dinners. But here's what really got me. 2 months back, there was a photo of her at the National Harbor, standing by the waterfront. She was wearing a cream-colored scarf. In the background, barely visible, was someone's reflection in a store window. Man's height, man's build, wearing what looked like a dark green jacket. I went to Justin's photos from that same weekend. There he was, at the National Harbor, wearing his dark green North Face jacket. He'd told me he was scouting locations for a team-building event. My entire body went cold. Not hot with anger, just cold. Like someone had injected ice water directly into my veins. I spent the next 6 hours doing what I can only describe as investigative research. I created a spreadsheet. On one side, every time Justin had claimed to be somewhere for work. On the other side, Dakota's social media activity. The correlation was terrifying. 90% match rate. When Justin came home at 11 p.m. that night, I was sitting in the dark living room with my laptop. He jumped when he saw me. "Jesus, Chelsea, you scared me." Why are you sitting in the dark? How was Singapore? I asked. Exhausting. They kept changing their requirements. We were on the call for hours. He loosened his tie, heading toward the kitchen. I'm starving. Did you eat? The call was at 9 a.m., Justin. It was on your calendar. He paused. I watched his back, watched him calculate his response. When he turned around, his face was perfectly arranged into confusion. Right, the morning call. That went fine. But then they wanted a follow-up this afternoon. Last-minute thing. I meant to text you about the schedule change, but everything moved so fast. What time was the afternoon call? Started around 2, went until maybe 6:30. I pulled up Dakota's Instagram on my laptop, turned the screen toward him. The coffee photo, timestamped 3:47 p.m. Do you know who this is? His face did something interesting. Not quite guilty, not quite surprised. More like, annoyed that I'd found something I wasn't supposed to find. That's Dakota. My ex from college. Why are you showing me her Instagram? She's in D.C., I said. She's been in D.C. for at least 3 months based on her posts. Georgetown, specifically. And she seems to go to a lot of the same places you go to. On the same nights. At the same times. Chelsea. He sat down on the couch, reached for my hand. I pulled it away. I ran into her a few months ago at the gym. We got coffee once or twice, caught up. That's it. She's an old friend. There's nothing weird about that. You never mentioned it. Because I knew you'd react like this. His voice took on that edge of frustration, like I was being unreasonable. I knew you'd make something out of nothing. She's just a friend, Chelsea. I'm allowed to have friends. This is the moment where I should have confronted him properly. Showed him the spreadsheet, the matched locations, the credit card charges. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the way he said, react like this, making my legitimate questions sound like jealous hysteria. Maybe it was the small voice in my head saying if I accused him and was wrong, I'd destroy our marriage over paranoia. Or maybe, and I think this is closer to the truth, I wanted to catch him so completely that he couldn't lie his way out. You're right, I said, closing my laptop. I'm sorry. I've been stressed about the promotion at work. I'm seeing problems where there aren't any. The relief on his face was palpable. He kissed my forehead. It's okay, babe. I get it. Work stress makes everything seem bigger than it is. But I promise you, there's nothing going on. Dakota is ancient history. You're my present and my future. He went to take a shower. I opened my laptop back up and downloaded every single one of Dakota's photos. Then I started documenting everything. Over the next 3 weeks, I cataloged it all. Every Tuesday and Thursday morning gym session that produced no workout soreness. Every late client dinner that showed up as a restaurant charge on our credit card matching Dakota's check-ins. Every business trip that aligned with her girls' weekends. I found Everett Sullivan's name in her wedding photos. Found his LinkedIn profile. Watched his posts become less frequent, more generic, like someone going through the motions. And then, at that Friday dinner, Justin announced he'd invited her to Millie's wedding. Sat at my parents' table and lied to everyone's face about Dakota, practically raising him, and being, basically family. That's when I knew. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. I was just married to a man who thought I was too stupid or too trusting to see what was right in front of me. So I sent Everett Sullivan that LinkedIn message. And now here we were, two strangers planning to expose the truth in the most public way possible. Because if Justin wanted Dakota at a family celebration, he'd get his wish. Just not the way he planned. Everett and I fell into an unlikely rhythm over the next week. Daily texts updating each other on new evidence. Late-night phone calls when the loneliness of knowing became too heavy to carry alone. We became experts at reading between our spouses' lies. Dakota just told me she needs to get her hair done this Saturday, Everett texted on Tuesday morning. Said it's for some promotional photo shoot next week. I knew immediately what that meant. Saturday was Millie's final dress fitting, the one where the bridal party was supposed to take photos at the venue. Justin had claimed he had a golf tournament that day with clients. Justin's playing golf Saturday, I texted back. First tournament of the season, apparently very important. There's a 90% chance of rain on Saturday. I know. We met again on Wednesday, this time at a wine bar in DuPont Circle. Somewhere neither of our spouses would think to look. I got there first and ordered a bottle of Pinot Noir. Something told me we'd need it. Everett looked worse than he had at our first meeting. His shirt was wrinkled, his tie loosened, dark circles under his eyes that makeup couldn't hide. He collapsed into the chair across from me. I almost confronted her last night, he said without preamble. She was in the shower and her phone was on the nightstand. I picked it up. I knew her passcode. I could have looked. Why didn't you? Because once I look, once I see whatever's in those messages, I can't unknow it. He poured himself a generous glass of wine. Right now I can still pretend the evidence is circumstantial. Maybe they're just friends. Maybe I'm reading too much into coincidences. Do you actually believe that? No. He drank half the glass in one swallow. But believing it and having proof are different things. Proof means I have to do something about it. I understood that completely. The purgatory of knowing without confirming. The safety of living in the almost truth. I looked, I admitted. 2 days ago. Justin left his phone charging in the bathroom. The passcode is our anniversary. How pathetic is that? He uses the date we got married to lock the phone he uses to cheat on me. What did you find? He was smart enough to delete the messages. But his photo stream auto-backs up to the cloud, and he forgot about that. There are photos in there from the past 3 months. Deleted from his phone but still in the cloud backup. I pulled out my phone, opened the folder I'd created. Screenshots of screenshots. Evidence of evidence. I slid it across the table to Everett. The first photo was from 6 weeks ago. Dakota in bed, sheets pulled up to her shoulders, hair messy, no makeup. The kind of intimate morning after photo you only take with someone you're sleeping with. She was smiling at the camera, completely comfortable. Everett's hand tightened around his wine glass. There's more, I said quietly. Bathroom selfies of them together, her in his dress shirt. Restaurant photos clearly taken across the table from each other, their meals half-eaten. A shot of her hand on his thigh in what looked like his car. Time stamps spanning months. The Georgetown waterfront photo, I pointed to one dated 8 weeks back. That's the new development you mentioned, right? Where she lives now? She moved there in January. His voice was hollow. Said she wanted to be closer to work. I helped her move. Carried boxes up 3 flights of stairs because the elevator was broken. They've been sleeping together in the apartment you helped her move into. We sat in silence for a moment. The wine bar was busy around us, young professionals on dates, friends catching up after work. Normal people having normal problems. Not 2 strangers bonding over matching betrayals. Here's what I don't understand, Everett said finally. Why invite her to your sister's wedding? Why push it this far? They've been getting away with it. Why risk exposure? I'd been thinking about this for days. Because Justin thinks he's smarter than me. Smarter than you. Smarter than everyone. He's convinced he can control the narrative. Bring Dakota to a family wedding, introduce her as an old friend, and suddenly their relationship is legitimized. They can be seen together in public without suspicion. Hiding in plain sight. Exactly. If my family meets her as Justin's old friend who's basically family, then later when someone sees them at dinner together, it's not suspicious. It's just friends catching up. He's creating cover for the affair by making it visible. That's actually brilliant, Everett said bitterly. Sociopathic, but brilliant. Dakota told you she has a work conference that weekend, right? In Baltimore? He nodded. Here's what I think happens. She tells you she's at a conference. Checks into some hotel, posts photos to Instagram to establish her alibi. But she actually drives to Virginia for the wedding. Justin introduces her to my family as his pseudo-family member. They have their romantic weekend at a luxury wedding venue, dancing together, drinking champagne, playing pretend couple while we're both at home thinking they're somewhere else. Then she comes home Sunday night with stories about boring conference panels and hotel room service. And Justin comes home exhausted from helping with wedding cleanup or whatever excuse he invents. Everett refilled both our glasses. So we destroy that plan. We show up together. No warning, no announcement. Just walk in as each other's dates and watch their faces. The wedding is in 2 weeks, I said. Millie's rehearsal dinner is the night before, Friday. That's when Justin will probably introduce Dakota to the family, get the awkward meeting out of the way so they can relax at the actual wedding. You want to do it at the rehearsal dinner? I want to do it at both. Rehearsal dinner we plant the seeds. Let them see us together. Let them panic. Then at the wedding, when they think they've survived the worst, we present the evidence. Credit cards, photos, timeline. Everything. In front of everyone. That's cruel, Everett said. But he was smiling. I love it. We clinked glasses, a toast to mutual destruction. I need to ask you something, Everett said after a moment. Are you doing this for revenge? Or are you doing this because you can't bring yourself to confront him privately? The question hit harder than I expected. I thought about it, really thought about it. Both, I admitted. I'm angry. I want him humiliated the way I've been humiliated. I want Dakota to face consequences. But also, if I confront him privately, he'll lie. He'll say the photos are old, that nothing happened, that I'm being paranoid. He'll make me question what I know is true. He's that good at manipulation. And if you do it publicly, with witnesses and evidence, he can't gaslight you. He can't gaslight any of us. My family will see who he really is. His colleagues will see. Everyone will see. There's power in public truth. What about your sister? This is her wedding. We're going to turn it into a drama. I'd thought about this too. Wrestled with the guilt of potentially ruining Millie's big day. I talked to her, I said. Yesterday. I told her everything. Showed her the evidence. Asked her permission. And? She said, and I quote, "If you don't expose that lying bastard at my wedding, I'll never forgive you." This is going to be the most memorable wedding in family history. Everett laughed, real laughter this time. Your sister sounds amazing. She is. She also said she's seating Justin and Dakota right next to the head table. Front row seats for their own exposure. We finished the bottle of wine, making plans, comparing schedules, coordinating our arrival times. By the time we left, the plan was set. 2 weeks until the rehearsal dinner. 2 weeks until we stopped being victims and became something else entirely. People who chose truth over comfort. People who refused to be lied to. People who understood that sometimes the only way to end a performance is to tear down the entire stage. The hardest part wasn't gathering evidence or coordinating with Everett. The hardest part was living with Justin while knowing everything, watching him prepare for his romantic weekend getaway disguised as my sister's wedding celebration. Thursday night, 10 days before the wedding, I found him in our walk-in closet trying on shirts. 3 different button-downs laid out on the bed, all recently purchased based on the tags I'd found in the trash last week. What do you think? He held up a navy blue shirt against his chest. Too formal for a rehearsal dinner. It's nice, I said, folding laundry that didn't need folding. When did you buy that? Last week. Thought I should look sharp for Millie's big weekend. He switched to a light gray option. This one? What he meant was, which one would Dakota like better? Which one would photograph well when they inevitably took secret photos together at the venue? Which one would she help him take off later that night? The gray, I said, brings out your eyes. He beamed, completely missing the ice in my voice. You always know. This is why I married you. He married me because I was convenient. Because I had a good job and didn't ask too many questions and smiled through his lies. Because I made him look stable and successful while he played out his affair fantasy. My phone buzzed. Everett. Dakota just asked me if I thought she'd look good as a blonde. Says she's thinking about changing her look for fall. Translation: she wants to look different for the wedding photos. I texted back while Justin continued his fashion show. Justin bought 3 new shirts this week. Has tried on each one multiple times. Pretty sure he's FaceTiming someone for opinions when I'm not home. They're like teenagers. It's almost embarrassing. 10 days. Can you hold out 10 more days? I've held out for 3 months. What's 10 more days? Justin emerged from the closet in the gray shirt, checking himself in the full-length mirror. I was thinking about getting a haircut tomorrow. What do you think? Keep it like this or go shorter for the wedding? Shorter, I said. Fresh cut always looks good in photos. Good call. He kissed the top of my head, and I fought the urge to flinch. You're coming to the rehearsal dinner, right? I know you said you weren't sure about Friday night. This was interesting. He wanted confirmation that I'd be there. Probably so he could prepare Dakota, make sure their story was straight before introducing her to the family. Wouldn't miss it, I said. Millie would kill me if I skipped. Something flickered across his face. Disappointment? Concern? It was gone before I could identify it. Great. That's great. He loosened his tie. I should probably give you a heads up, Dakota might seem a little nervous when you meet her. She's always been shy around new people. That's sweet that you remember that about her. From Georgetown. Which was what, 8 years ago? 9, he corrected automatically. Then caught himself. I mean, roughly. Around there. Time blurs together. Time didn't blur together when you were actively spending it with someone. But I just nodded, playing the trusting wife he thought he'd married. After he fell asleep that night, he always fell asleep within minutes, unburdened by guilt or conscience. I went to the living room and called Everett. Tell me we're doing the right thing, I said without preamble. Are you having second thoughts? No. Yes. I don't know. I curled up on the couch, pulling a blanket around myself. He just tried on shirts for an hour. He asked me which one made him look better. And I helped him. I stood there and helped him look good for another woman. Dakota asked me to pick up her dry cleaning yesterday, Everett said. The dress she bought for the wedding. $1,200. She told me it was for a client presentation. I held the garment bag. I loaded it into her car. I'm financing my wife's affair outfit. We're both pathetic. We're both surviving. There's a difference. I heard something in the background on his end. Movement, maybe voices. Where are you? I asked. Hotel room. I told Dakota I had an early morning meeting in Richmond, needed to drive down tonight. Couldn't be in that house anymore. Couldn't watch her pack for your sister's wedding while pretending she's going to Baltimore. What hotel? The Jefferson. Room 412. Why? I didn't think about it. I grabbed my keys, slipped into shoes, and left. Justin wouldn't wake up. He never did. I drove through empty DC streets, past monuments lit up against the night sky, past restaurants where maybe Justin and Dakota had shared intimate dinners while their spouses waited at home. The Jefferson's lobby was quiet at 11 p.m. The elevator felt like it took forever. When Everett opened the door to room 412, he looked as wrecked as I felt. I couldn't be alone, I said. Me neither. We ordered room service, neither of us ate. Opened the minibar and drank tiny bottles of overpriced vodka. Sat on opposite sides of the hotel bed fully clothed and compared notes on our failing marriages. When did you know for sure? Everett asked around 1 a.m. Not suspect. No. The National Harbor photo, I said. When I saw Justin's jacket in the reflection of Dakota's Instagram post. That's when suspicion became certainty. You? Text message. She thought she was texting her friend Natasha, but she'd actually texted me. It said, "Can't wait for Tuesday morning. Missed you." When I asked her about it, she said she'd meant to text about a yoga class. But Dakota doesn't do yoga. She hates yoga. The lies are almost worse than the affair itself. The lies are the affair, Everett corrected. The physical stuff is just a symptom. But the lying, the gaslighting, the making us question our own reality, that's the real betrayal. Do you still love her? I asked. He thought about it. I love who I thought she was. The woman I married. But that woman doesn't exist. Maybe she never did. Dakota is a stranger who shares my last name and my bed and apparently my money, but she's not the person I promised forever to. Yeah, I said quietly. Yeah, that's exactly it. We fell asleep eventually, exhausted from carrying our secrets. Nothing happened. We just existed in the same space without having to pretend we didn't know what we knew. When I woke at 5 a.m., Everett was already up, making coffee with the in-room machine. 10 days, he said, handing me a cup. 10 days, I confirmed. You know there's no going back after this, right? Once we walk into that rehearsal dinner together, once we expose them in front of everyone, our marriages are over. Completely. They're already over, I said. We're just making it official. And you're okay with that? With blowing up your life? I thought about Justin trying on shirts last night. About the way he'd kissed my head while planning his weekend with another woman. About every lie, every fake meeting, every moment he'd made me question my own sanity. My life is already blown up, I said. I've been living in the rubble for 3 months, pretending the house isn't on fire. At least this way, everyone else will see the flames too. Everett raised his coffee cup. To burning it all down. To burning it all down, I echoed. 10 days until the rehearsal dinner. 10 days until Justin and Dakota's carefully constructed lies collapsed in front of 200 witnesses. 10 days until Everett and I stopped being victims and became something else. I drove home as the sun rose over D.C., let myself quietly back into the apartment, and climbed into bed next to my sleeping husband. He never even knew I'd been gone. Justin's guilt campaign went into overdrive as the wedding approached. Monday morning, 5 days before the rehearsal dinner, I woke to breakfast in bed. Scrambled eggs with chives, sourdough toast, fresh squeezed orange juice arranged on a tray with a single rose in a bud vase. What's all this? I asked, propping myself up against the pillows. Just wanted to do something nice for my wife. He sat on the edge of the bed, watching me with an intensity that might have been romantic if I didn't know what it really was. I know I've been distracted with work lately. Want to make sure you know how much I appreciate you. Distracted with work. That's what he was calling it. I took a bite of eggs I couldn't taste. This is sweet, Justin. Thank you. Anything for you, babe. He kissed my forehead, and I noticed he'd shaved with the expensive cologne I didn't recognize. At 7 a.m. on a Monday. Oh, I forgot to mention, I need to leave work early on Thursday. Have to pick up my suit from the tailor. I thought you picked that up last week. Brief pause. Microscopic, but I caught it. That was the first fitting. Final alterations are done Thursday. Want to make sure everything's perfect for Millie's big day. What he meant was, I need Thursday afternoon free to meet Dakota. To coordinate last-minute details for our romantic weekend. To maybe squeeze in one more hotel room rendezvous before we have to be more careful around your family. Makes sense, I said, sipping orange juice. I'm sure you'll look great. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. Everett's morning check-in, right on schedule. Dakota just told me she's leaving for Baltimore Thursday afternoon. Conference starts Friday morning, apparently. She'll be gone all weekend. I waited until Justin left for his morning gym session before responding. Justin's picking up his suit Thursday afternoon. $50 says they're actually spending Thursday evening together. One last date before the wedding weekend. Want me to follow them? I thought about it. We already had enough evidence to bury them both. But something about the suggestion felt right. Not for proof, we had that. For closure. To witness one final lie before we detonated the truth. Riverfront Park, I typed. Thursday at 6 p.m. Bring binoculars. Tuesday brought flowers. Not gas station flowers, but an elaborate arrangement from the expensive florist on M Street. Peonies and garden roses in blush pink, my favorites. The card read, counting down to celebrating your sister with you. Love, Jay. Millie called 10 minutes after they were delivered. Did Justin send you flowers? She sounded incredulous. Currently staring at them. Chelsea, he's really leaning into this whole devoted husband thing, isn't he? Guilt is a powerful motivator. 5 days, my sister said. Can you hold on 5 more days? I've made it this far. I finalized the seating chart. Justin and Dakota are at table 3, right next to where Brian and I will be during dinner. Front row seats. When you and Everett make your entrance, they'll be the first people to see you. Brian was Millie's fiancé, and he was fully briefed on the plan. He'd actually suggested moving their table even closer, but Millie worried it would look too obvious. How's Brian handling all this? I asked. He's furious on your behalf. Keeps muttering about Justin being a smug bastard and asking if he can accidentally spill red wine on him during dinner. I had to make him promise to stay calm. Tell him I appreciate the support. He also wants to make sure Everett is okay. Thinks we should all get drinks after this is over. Says any guy whose wife cheats on him at someone else's wedding deserves a support system. I felt a rush of affection for my future brother-in-law. Brian's good people. The best. Which is why I'm marrying him in 5 days in front of everyone we know, including your cheating husband and his mistress. She paused. You're absolutely sure you want to do this at my wedding? Millie, if you've changed your mind. I haven't. I just need to make sure you haven't. Because once this happens, it's done. Everyone will know. There's no taking it back. I know. And you're ready for that? For everyone to know your marriage failed? My marriage didn't fail, I said quietly. Justin failed at marriage. There's a difference. Wednesday, Justin came home with gifts. New perfume, expensive lotion from Sephora, a silk scarf in emerald green. He presented them like offerings, his face hopeful and anxious. I saw these and thought of you, he said, watching me open each one. What he meant was, I bought these to assuage my conscience. To prove to myself I still care about my wife even while planning a romantic weekend with another woman. To balance the scales in my head so I can justify what I'm about to do. They're beautiful, I said. And they were. Justin had always had good taste. It was his morals that were lacking. That night, I modeled the scarf for him. Let him tell me how beautiful I looked. Let him pull me close and kiss me. Let him believe his gifts had worked, that I was the same trusting Chelsea who wouldn't question his Thursday afternoon suit pickup or his weekend plans. Thursday arrived with rain. Heavy gray clouds that matched my mood. Justin left early for work, claiming he had back-to-back meetings before the tailor appointment. I waited 30 minutes, then texted Everett. Game time. Riverfront Park at 6. I'll bring the binoculars and a camera with a zoom lens. Borrowed it from work. I spent the day unable to concentrate. Checked my phone every 5 minutes. Watched the clock like a prisoner counting down to execution. At 5:30, I drove to Riverfront Park, parked in the back lot where my car wouldn't be visible from the main paths. Everett was already there, sitting on a bench with a camera bag that looked professional enough to belong to a sports photographer. He dressed down, jeans, baseball cap, sunglasses, trying to blend in with the joggers and dog walkers. "They're meeting at Via Sofia," he said without preamble. "Italian place on the waterfront. I hacked Dakota's email last night. Found the reservation confirmation. 6:30, table for two, under the name Meyer." She made the reservation under her own name? Arrogant, right? He handed me the binoculars. "From this bench, we have a clear view of the restaurant's outdoor patio. If they sit outside, we'll see everything." We waited. The rain had stopped, but the air was heavy with moisture, clouds threatening to open up again. Joggers passed. A woman walked 3 small dogs. A man proposed by the fountain, and we watched politely as his girlfriend cried and said yes. "That used to be us," Everett said quietly. "Remember when the hardest decision was what kind of wedding cake to order? I remember thinking marriage meant you'd always have someone who chose you. Someone who'd protect you from getting hurt." I lowered the binoculars. "Turns out sometimes the person you marry is the one who hurts you most." At 6:25, Justin's car pulled into the restaurant parking lot. He sat there for a moment, checking his phone, fixing his hair in the rearview mirror. Then Dakota's BMW pulled up next to him. "Here we go," Everett muttered, raising the camera. They met between their cars. Dakota in a sundress despite the cool weather, Justin in casual clothes I'd never seen before. Must have changed after leaving work. They didn't kiss, too public, too risky, but the way they looked at each other was worse somehow. Intimate. Familiar. Like they'd done this 1,000 times. Everett's camera shutter clicked rapidly as they walked into the restaurant together. 3 minutes later, they emerged with a server who led them to the outdoor patio. "Perfect view from our bench." "Zoom in on their hands," I said. Everett adjusted the lens. On the camera's display screen, I could see Dakota's hand on the table, palm up. Justin covered it with his own, threading their fingers together. The gesture was casual, comfortable. Not the tentative touch of an affair, but the easy intimacy of an established couple. They ordered wine. Shared an appetizer, feeding each other bites. Laughed at things we couldn't hear. For 45 minutes, we watched my husband have dinner with another man's wife, and they looked happier than I'd seen Justin look in months. "Do you think they feel guilty?" I asked suddenly. "Even a little bit?" Everett lowered the camera, watching them laugh over wine. "I think they feel excited. Like they're getting away with something. Guilt would require them to think about us, and clearly they're not." He was right. In that moment, watching my husband hold another woman's hand 45 minutes from our home, I realized he probably never thought about me during these dates. I was an afterthought. An inconvenience. The person waiting at home while he lived his real life. "I think I'm going to be sick," I said. "We have enough photos." Everett lowered the camera. 23 clear shots of them together. Hand-holding, intimate conversation, him touching her face. "This is evidence gold. It's also proof that this isn't just an affair," I said. "This is a relationship. They're in love." The words hurt more than I expected. Because it meant Justin hadn't just betrayed our marriage, he'd replaced it. Found something he thought was better and chose it over me, over us, over everything we'd built. "Tomorrow," Everett said. "Tomorrow night we end this. Tomorrow." The rehearsal dinner. Where Justin planned to introduce Dakota to my family as an old friend. Where Everett and I would walk in together and detonate the truth in front of everyone. We left before they finished dinner. Drove back to our separate homes. Our separate lives. Our separate beds next to spouses who thought we were too stupid or too trusting to see the truth. Justin came home at 9 p.m., claiming the tailor appointment had taken forever. "How does the suit look?" I asked from the couch. "Perfect. You're going to love it." He collapsed next to me, pulling me against his chest. He smelled like Italian food and wine. Like Dakota's perfume. One more day until the wedding weekend. You excited? Very, I said. And I was. Just not for the reasons he thought. After Thursday night's surveillance mission where we'd watched them at Via Sofia, I barely slept. Now it was Friday, rehearsal day, and everything was about to become real. The Ashford Estate looked like something out of a fairy tale. Rolling Virginia hills covered in late summer green, rows of grapevines stretching toward distant mountains, the main house a restored colonial mansion with white columns and wraparound porches. Millie had chosen well. I arrived at 2 p.m. for the rehearsal, 3 hours before the dinner. My maid of honor dress hung in the bridal suite, a soft sage green that Millie had picked to complement the vineyard setting. She was already there with her bridesmaids, drinking champagne and pretending this was a normal wedding weekend. You okay? She asked, pulling me aside while the others fussed with hair and makeup. Ask me again tomorrow. Justin texted Brian this morning. Asked if Dakota could bring a +1 to the wedding tomorrow. Said she felt awkward coming alone. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. What did Brian say? That the seating chart was final and we couldn't accommodate any additional guests. Millie squeezed my hand. Dakota isn't bringing backup. It's just her. And tonight, it'll just be her and Justin walking into a room where everyone's about to find out exactly what they've been doing. The rehearsal itself was torture. Walking through the ceremony choreography, practicing my maid of honor duties, smiling for the photographer's test shots. Justin arrived halfway through, apologizing for being late, claiming traffic from DC had been terrible. He kissed my cheek, whispered, "You look beautiful," and took his seat in the back row where he'd sit tomorrow during the actual ceremony. I watched him check his phone compulsively. Texting Dakota, probably. Coordinating their arrival times for dinner. Making sure their stories aligned. My own phone buzzed in my clutch. Everett. Just checked into the hotel. Room 302. Dakota thinks I'm in Baltimore. She left the house at noon, told me the conference started with an afternoon session. I tracked her car on the Find My app. She's been at a spa in Charlottesville for the past 3 hours. Getting ready for tonight. Justin's here. Can't stop checking his phone. He's nervous. Good. He should be. The rehearsal wrapped at 4:30. The dinner was set for 6 p.m. in the estate's wine cellar, an elegant underground space with exposed brick walls, candlelight, and long farmhouse tables that seated 40 people. Immediate family only, plus the wedding party and significant others. I had 90 minutes to prepare. 90 minutes before Everett walked in and everything changed. In the bridal suite, I changed into the dress I'd bought specifically for this night. Deep burgundy, elegant but not flashy, with a neckline that showed confidence without desperation. I did my makeup carefully, dramatic eyes, bold lip, the kind of look that said I knew exactly what I was doing. Millie watched me from her perch on the velvet settee. You look like you're going to war. I am, kind of. Remind me never to cross you. At 5:45, guests started arriving. My parents came first, my father in a blazer, my mother in pearls. Brian's parents followed, then the bridesmaids and groomsmen with their partners. The wine cellar filled with conversation and laughter, people helping themselves to the appetizer station and the open bar. Justin arrived at 5:55, alone. He'd changed into the gray shirt I'd helped him pick, paired with dark slacks and the watch I'd given him for our second anniversary. He looked good. Confident. Ready. He found me by the bar, slid his arm around my waist. Have you seen the table settings? Your sister really went all out. She's been planning this for 18 months. Every detail matters. Speaking of details, he cleared his throat. Dakota should be here soon. I know meeting her might feel weird, but I really appreciate you being cool about this. Not every wife would be so understanding. Understanding. As if I understood anything except his capacity for deception. I'm looking forward to meeting her, I said, and it was even true. Just not for the reasons he thought. At 6:02, Dakota Meyer walked into the wine cellar, and I saw her in person for the first time. She was beautiful. Not magazine beautiful, but real-world beautiful, long blonde hair in loose waves, a champagne-colored dress that hugged her curves, delicate gold jewelry that caught the candlelight. She moved with the confidence of someone who knew she was attractive and had learned to use it. Her eyes found Justin immediately. They exchanged a look that lasted maybe 2 seconds but contained entire conversations. Then she smoothed her expression into something neutral and approached our group. "You must be Chelsea," she said, extending a perfectly manicured hand. "I've heard so much about you. Justin talks about you constantly." "I'm sure he does," I thought. "Probably complains about me to you while you're lying in hotel beds I'm paying for." "Dakota," I said warmly, shaking her hand. "So nice to finally meet you. Justin's told me you two go way back." "Georgetown," she confirmed, and I watched her slip into the prepared lie as easily as breathing. "Feels like a lifetime ago. I practically lived at his apartment senior year. His roommates used to joke that I was part of the furniture." My mother appeared at my elbow, curious. "Dakota? I'm Myra Ford, Chelsea's mother. I don't believe we've met." "Dakota Meyer," she introduced herself, shaking my mother's hand. "Old friend of Justin's from Georgetown. He was kind enough to include me this weekend." "How lovely," my mother said, though her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. She had excellent instincts, always had. "And you're in town from?" "I'm actually based in D.C. now. Just moved back earlier this year." "Interesting," my mother said. "Justin mentioned you'd been in Austin for years." Dakota's smile flickered. "Just for a second. I was. But you know how it is, sometimes you just need to come home. Or sometimes you need to be in the same city as the married man you're sleeping with." My phone buzzed. I glanced down casually. "Everett. Parking now. Give me 5 minutes." My heart rate kicked up. 5 minutes until the performance ended. 5 minutes until Dakota's champagne smile disappeared and Justin's confident facade cracked. "Let me introduce you to my sister," I said to Dakota, taking her arm like we were old friends. "She's the bride. This whole weekend is her vision." I led her toward Millie, who was talking to Brian's parents near the head table. As we walked, I felt Justin's eyes following us, probably worried about what I might say. If only he knew. "Millie," I called out. "Come meet Justin's friend Dakota." My sister turned, and her face arranged itself into a perfect smile. "Dakota. Justin's mentioned you. So glad you could make it." They shook hands while I watched Dakota relax slightly. She'd cleared the first hurdle, meeting the family, being accepted, establishing her cover story. She probably thought the hard part was over. "The venue is absolutely stunning," Dakota said. "You've done an incredible job with all of this." "Thank you. It's been a labor of love." Millie glanced past Dakota's shoulder toward the entrance, and I saw her eyes widen slightly. "Oh, looks like we have a late arrival." I turned, and there he was. Everett Sullivan stood in the doorway of the wine cellar, tall and broad-shouldered in a perfectly tailored navy suit. He paused there, scanning the room with deliberate slowness, letting everyone see him before he moved. I watched Dakota's champagne flute slip from her fingers. It fell in slow motion, or at least that's how I remember it. The glass tumbling through candlelit air, champagne arcing out in a golden spray, then the crystal hitting the brick floor with a sound like breaking bells. 40 people turned to look. Dakota stood frozen, champagne soaking into her expensive dress, her face the color of old paper. Her mouth opened but no sound came out. Justin's hand was on my waist. I felt his fingers tighten, his whole body going rigid with confusion. He didn't know who Everett was. Not yet. But he knew something was very, very wrong. Everett walked toward us, weaving through tables and concerned guests, his eyes locked on his wife. When he reached our group, he smiled, cold and terrible, and extended his hand to me. "Chelsea," he said warmly, like we were old friends. "Sorry I'm late. Traffic from the city was murder." I took his hand, and the room seemed to tilt on its axis. "Everett," I said, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "I'm so glad you could make it. Let me introduce you to everyone. This is my husband, Justin Harrison." I gestured to Justin, whose face had gone from confused to pale. "And this is Dakota Meyer, Justin's old friend from Georgetown." I paused, letting the moment stretch. Then smiled directly at Dakota. "Though I believe you two know each other already. Everett, this is Dakota's husband, Everett Sullivan." The word husband landed like a bomb. Dakota made a sound like a wounded animal. Justin's grip on my waist loosened, his hand falling away completely. My mother gasped audibly. Millie pulled out her phone, and I saw the camera app open. "Wait," Justin said, his voice rough. "Wait, this is perfect timing?" I suggested. "Yes, I thought so too. Everett and I have been planning this for weeks." The silence in the wine cellar was absolute. 40 people frozen like a photograph, champagne dripping from Dakota's dress onto the brick floor, the only sound in the cavernous space. Justin found his voice first. "Chelsea, what is this? What's going on?" "What's going on," I said calmly, "is that your old college friend who practically raised you has been sleeping with you for the past 6 months. And Everett and I thought it was time everyone knew." Dakota finally moved, reaching for Everett's arm. "Everett, I can explain." "Can you?" He stepped back, away from her touch. "Can you explain Tuesday and Thursday mornings at Capital Grind? The coffee receipts for $40 when you only drink black coffee? Can you explain the Watermark Hotel on March 15th when you said you were at a marketing conference?" My father stood up from his seat at the head table. "Someone better start making sense. Right now." I pulled out my phone, opened the folder I'd labeled Evidence, and handed it to my father. "This makes sense. Credit card statements showing Justin at hotels and restaurants on nights he claimed to be at client meetings. Dakota's Instagram posts from the same locations at the same times. Photos from Justin's cloud backup showing them together. 6 months of coordinated lies." My father's face went through several expressions as he scrolled through the evidence. Then he looked at Justin with something I'd never seen before, complete disgust. "You brought your mistress to my daughter's wedding," he said quietly. Quiet was worse than yelling. "You stood in my home and lied to my face. You've been lying to my daughter for months." "Mr. Ford, I can explain," Justin started. "Don't," my mother cut him off, her voice sharp as glass. "Don't you dare try to explain this away. We've watched you play the devoted husband for 3 years. We welcomed you into this family. And this is how you repay that trust?" Dakota was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks in black streaks. "This is insane. Chelsea, you're having some kind of breakdown. Everett, please, let's talk about this privately." "Privately?" Everett laughed, harsh and bitter. "Like you talked to me privately before you started sleeping with him? Like you privately told me about your Tuesday morning coffee dates? Your Thursday evening client dinners?" He turned to address the room. "My wife told me she was at a work conference in Baltimore this weekend. Business conference, very important for her career. Except there is no conference. There never was." Millie stepped forward, her phone in hand. "I think everyone should see this." She connected her phone to the venue's display screen, the one they'd set up for the rehearsal dinner slideshow. "Chelsea sent me these this morning." The screen lit up with the photos Everett had taken yesterday. Justin and Dakota at Via Sofia, holding hands across the table. Him touching her face. Her laughing at something he said. The timestamps clearly visible in the corner of each photo. Thursday, 6:37 p.m. Thursday, 6:52 p.m. Thursday, 7:15 p.m. "That's from last night," I said. While Justin was supposedly picking up his suit from the tailor. While Dakota was supposedly preparing for her Baltimore conference. They had dinner together at a waterfront restaurant. Held hands. Looked very much like a couple. Justin's face had gone from pale to gray. Chelsea, please. Can we talk about this alone? Not here, not like this. Why not here? I asked. You wanted Dakota at this wedding so badly. You insisted on it. Paid to change the seating chart. Called my brother multiple times to make sure she had a good view of everything. You wanted her here, Justin. So here she is. Here we all are. Let's talk about it in front of everyone. Brian, Millie's fiancé, stood up from his seat. I think you both need to leave. This is supposed to be a celebration for my future wife, and you've turned it into a circus. Absolutely not, my mother said firmly. They're not leaving until we get the full truth. How long has this been going on? Dakota looked at Everett, then at Justin, then at the 40 pairs of eyes staring at her. This is a misunderstanding. Justin and I are friends. That's all. The photos are taken out of context. 6 months, Everett said flatly. I found texts going back 6 months. You renamed his contact Natasha, but you forgot to delete the cloud backups. I have messages about hotel rooms, about missing each other, about how you wished you could spend more time together. I have those too, I added. Justin thought he deleted everything from his phone. But the photos backed up automatically. There are at least 30 pictures of them together. Intimate photos. Bedroom photos. Photos that make it very clear this isn't just friendship. I have receipts, I continued, scrolling through my phone. 6 months of credit card statements. 32 photos from Justin's cloud backup that he thought he deleted. A spreadsheet correlating every business trip with Dakota's Instagram locations. And these, I turned to Everett, who pulled out his phone. Photos from last night. Thursday, 6:30 p.m. Via Sophia Restaurant. Want to see them on the big screen? My cousin Edith, one of the bridesmaids, spoke up from the back. I knew something was weird. Last month I saw Justin at Morton's Steakhouse with a blonde woman. He told me it was a client. But she was wearing that dress. She pointed at Dakota. That exact champagne dress. I remember because I almost bought the same one. Other voices started joining in. Brian's groomsman Dylan mentioned seeing Justin's car at the Georgetown waterfront apartments multiple times. My aunt had spotted them at the Kennedy Center in March. Millie's friend had seen Dakota wearing a man's watch in one of her Instagram stories, a watch that looked suspiciously like Justin's. The evidence piled up, witness after witness, until the room was buzzing with confirmation. They'd been hiding in plain sight, and now everyone could see. Enough, Justin said loudly. This is enough. Yes, okay? Yes. Dakota and I have been seeing each other. But it's not what you think. What we think, my father interrupted, is that you're a liar and a cheat who's been betraying my daughter while living in her house, spending her money, and pretending to be a decent man. We fell in love, Justin said desperately. I didn't mean for it to happen. We tried to stay away from each other but... You fell in love, I repeated slowly. You fell in love with another man's wife while married to me. And instead of being honest about it, instead of ending our marriage with dignity, you lied. For 6 months. You made me think I was crazy for being suspicious. You bought me gifts to cover your guilt. You brought her to my sister's wedding and expected me to smile and welcome her. Chelsea, I never wanted to hurt you. But you did, I said. Every lie hurt. Every fake business trip, every pretend client dinner, every morning you left for the gym and went to meet her instead. You hurt me over and over again, and you did it while making me feel guilty for not trusting you more. Dakota finally broke, sinking into a chair and sobbing into her hands. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. We didn't mean for any of this to happen. You meant for all of it to happen, Everett said coldly. You chose this. Every single time. You chose to text him. You chose to meet him. You chose to lie to me. You chose to come to this wedding and pretend to be his old friend while planning to spend the weekend with him. We weren't. You booked a room here, I said. Room 405 at the Ashford Estate, under your maiden name Meyer. I called the hotel this morning and confirmed. You were planning to stay here this weekend, not in Baltimore. Let me guess, Justin was going to offer to drive you back to DC on Sunday? Maybe have car trouble? End up staying the night somewhere? Justin's silence was answer enough. Millie walked over to them, her face calm but her voice like ice. Get out. Both of you. Get out of my rehearsal dinner, get off this property, and never contact my sister again. Millie, Justin tried. Get out, she repeated. Or I'll have security remove you. And trust me, that will be much more humiliating than walking out on your own. Dakota stood on shaking legs, champagne and tears staining her expensive dress. She looked at Everett one more time. Can we please talk about this? My lawyer will contact you Monday, Everett said. Pack your things and stay somewhere else this weekend. I don't want to see you. She fled. Literally ran from the wine cellar, her heels clicking frantically on the brick floor. Justin stood there for another moment, looking at me with something that might have been regret. I really did love you once, he said quietly. Once wasn't enough, I replied. He left. The door closed behind him. And 40 people started breathing again. For a moment, nobody moved. The wine cellar felt suspended in time, everyone processing what they'd just witnessed. Then my mother crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled me into a fierce hug. My brave girl, she whispered. My brilliant, brave girl. That's when I started shaking. The adrenaline that had kept me upright and coherent drained away all at once, leaving me trembling against my mother's shoulder. I'd done it. I'd actually done it. 6 months of evidence gathering, 3 weeks of planning, and it was over in 15 minutes. My father appeared on my other side, his hand warm on my back. Are you okay, sweetheart? I don't know, I admitted. Ask me tomorrow. Millie materialized with a glass of wine. Drink this. You've earned it. I took a long swallow, the wine sharp and grounding. Around us, the dinner guests were starting to recover from their shock. Whispered conversations bloomed like flowers. Brian's mother was crying. My cousin Edith looked like she wanted to chase Justin down and hit him with something heavy. Everett stood alone near the bar, staring at nothing. I handed my wine to Millie and walked over to him. You okay? I asked quietly. I just publicly ended my marriage in front of 40 strangers. He laughed, shaky and breathless. No, I'm not okay. But I'm better than I was an hour ago when I was still pretending I didn't know. We did it. We did it, he confirmed. No going back now. Would you want to go back? He thought about it for a long moment. No. Living the lie was killing me slowly. This might hurt more right now, but at least it's honest pain. Brian approached us, carrying 2 glasses of whiskey. Figured you might need something stronger than wine. He handed one to each of us. That was the most insane thing I've ever witnessed. Also kind of brilliant. Your wedding weekend is ruined, I said. I'm so sorry. Are you kidding? Brian grinned. This is going to be the most talked about wedding in Virginia history. 20 years from now, people will still be telling stories about the rehearsal dinner where 2 cheaters got exposed by their spouses working together. It's legendary. Millie joined us, looping her arm through Brian's. He's right. I mean, yes, it was intense and dramatic and slightly terrifying. But also, I'm so proud of you. You didn't just catch them, you orchestrated a masterpiece. I second that, said a voice behind me. My Aunt Edith, my father's sister, who'd always been my favorite aunt growing up. That man had it coming. They both did. The audacity to bring her here, to your sister's wedding, and expect everyone to smile and play along with their lie. Other family members started approaching. Cousins offering hugs. Uncles shaking Everett's hand in solidarity. Brian's groomsman Dylan admitted he'd never liked Justin, thought he was too smooth, like a used car salesman. My mother's best friend said she'd suspected something was wrong at my birthday dinner last month when Justin had barely looked at me all night. Everyone had seen something. Everyone had noticed little inconsistencies, small red flags they dismissed or ignored because it wasn't their place to say anything. Now the truth was out, and they were relieved they could finally acknowledge what they'd suspected. The restaurant staff appeared, uncertain. "Should we still serve dinner?" one of them asked tentatively. Millie looked at me. "It's your call. If you want to leave, we can cancel everything." "No," I said firmly. "This is your rehearsal dinner. We're not letting them ruin it more than they already have. Serve dinner. Let's celebrate your wedding." "Are you sure?" "I'm sure. I didn't go through all this planning just to let Justin and Dakota win by driving me away. We're staying. We're eating overpriced Italian food. And we're toasting to your marriage tomorrow." The staff began setting out the first course. Guests slowly returned to their seats, though the seating chart was now thoroughly disrupted. No one wanted to sit where Justin and Dakota had been supposed to sit. Everett ended up next to me at a table with my parents and Millie's maid of honor. As waiters brought out burrata and heirloom tomatoes, my phone started buzzing incessantly. I pulled it out, saw 17 missed calls from Justin and 12 text messages. "Chelsea, please call me, we need to talk about this, you're overreacting, I know you're hurt but this was cruel, how could you humiliate me like that, my boss was there. Do you know what you've done to my career?" I showed the messages to Everett. He snorted. Dakota sent me similar ones. Apparently I'm a controlling, paranoid husband who ruined her life. Nothing about the affair. Nothing about the lying. Just angry that she got caught. They're not even apologizing, I observed. They're mad at us for exposing them. Cheaters rarely apologize, my father said from across the table. He'd been reading over my shoulder. They justify. They minimize. They blame everyone except themselves. Your husband is showing you exactly who he is, Chelsea. Believe him. I turned off my phone and slipped it back into my clutch. I don't want to think about him anymore tonight. Tonight is about Millie and Brian. Dinner continued with an almost manic energy. People kept coming up to our table, wanting to hear more details, asking how we'd planned it, expressing admiration for the coordinated exposure. It was surreal, being congratulated for ending my marriage. But there was something else too. Something underneath the shock and drama. Relief. Deep, profound relief that I didn't have to pretend anymore. Didn't have to smile through Justin's lies or make excuses for his behavior or convince myself I was being paranoid. The truth was out. Everyone knew. And instead of being ashamed, I felt lighter than I had in months. By the time dessert arrived, individual tiramisu cups with delicate chocolate garnish, the mood had almost normalized. People were laughing again, telling stories, celebrating the wedding. Everett had relaxed enough to joke with Brian about whether tomorrow's ceremony could possibly top tonight's drama. "Nothing I do tomorrow will be as memorable as what happened here," Brian said, raising his wine glass. "But I'm okay with that. Let Chelsea have the legendary moment. I'll settle for marrying the woman I love." To Brian and Millie, Everett said, and we all raised our glasses. "To honest love," I added. "The kind that doesn't require secret hotel rooms or fake conferences or elaborate lies." "To honest love," the table echoed. After dinner, as guests filtered out to their hotel rooms, Millie pulled me aside in the hallway. "Are you really okay?" she asked. "Because you can fall apart now if you need to. The performance is over." "I know. But I don't think I'm ready to fall apart yet. I think I'm still running on adrenaline and vindication." "What happens tomorrow?" "Justin's name is still on the guest list. He could show up. He won't, I said with certainty. His pride is too damaged. He knows everyone there will be talking about what happened tonight. He won't subject himself to that. And Dakota? Same. She's probably on a flight back to DC right now, trying to figure out how to salvage her life. Millie hugged me tightly. I love you. You know that, right? And I'm so sorry you had to go through this. But I'm also incredibly proud of how you handled it. Thanks for letting me turn your rehearsal dinner into a dramatic confrontation. Are you kidding? This is the best rehearsal dinner story in wedding history. Our grandchildren will hear about this. We walked back to the hotel together, arms linked, while Everett trailed behind us on a phone call with his lawyer. Tomorrow was Millie's wedding day. Tomorrow I'd put on my sage green maid of honor dress and smile for photos and celebrate my sister marrying someone who would never lie to her the way Justin had lied to me. But tonight, I was just going to sit in my hotel room, order room service, and let myself feel everything I'd been holding back for 6 months. The anger. The betrayal. The relief. The grief for the marriage I thought I had. And underneath it all, the smallest seed of something that felt almost like hope. Because if I could survive this, I could survive anything. I woke up Saturday morning to 63 text messages, 22 missed calls, and a splitting headache. The hotel room was flooded with sunlight, birds singing outside the window like this was a normal, beautiful day. Like my entire life hadn't imploded 12 hours ago. The texts were a mix of supportive family members and people I barely knew asking if the rumors were true. 3 from Justin, increasingly desperate. We need to talk before the wedding. I'm not going to let you destroy everything over a misunderstanding. I'm coming to the ceremony. You can't stop me. I forwarded them to my father, who responded immediately. Security has his photo. He won't get within 50 yards of the venue. There were also 5 texts from Dakota's number. I almost deleted them without reading, but curiosity won out. You ruined my life. Everett won't answer my calls. I lost a client this morning because someone from last night contacted them. I hope you're happy. You're a vindictive bitch. I screenshot those and sent them to Everett with the caption, I don't think she's grasped the concept of consequences yet. His response came within seconds. Dakota called my mother at 2 a.m. crying. My mother, who lives in Florida and hasn't spoken to her in 6 months. She's spiraling. Justin's threatening to show up at the wedding. Want me to handle it? My dad's got security. But thank you. I dragged myself into the shower, letting hot water wash away the residue of last night's confrontation. Today was Millie's day. I was going to be the perfect maid of honor, smile in all the photos, and not let Justin's betrayal overshadow my sister's happiness. The bridal suite was chaos when I arrived at 10 a.m. Hairstylists, makeup artists, the photographer documenting every moment. Millie sat in the center like a bride-to-be should, glowing and happy, surrounded by her bridesmaids. The scandal made it to Instagram, announced Eleanor, one of the bridesmaids, scrolling through her phone. Someone posted about it in a DC wedding forum. It's getting hundreds of comments. Eleanor, Millie warned. Not today. No, wait, this is actually good. She turned her phone around. Everyone's on your sister's side. Listen to this comment, the wife is a genius. Public accountability is the only way to handle cheaters who gaslight you. And this one, I wish I'd had the courage to do this when my ex cheated. Instead I confronted him privately and he convinced everyone I was crazy. Internet strangers think I'm a hero, I said dryly. That's oddly validating. My mother appeared with mimosas. No phones. No drama. Today we celebrate Millie and Brian. Everything else can wait. She was right. I tucked my phone away and let myself be pulled into wedding preparations. Hair curled and pinned. Makeup applied. The sage green maid of honor dress that actually looked beautiful. By noon, when the photographer lined us up for pre-ceremony photos, I'd almost forgotten about Justin entirely. Almost. The ceremony was at 2 p.m. in the estate's garden, white chairs arranged in neat rows, an arbor woven with roses and ivy at the altar. I stood at the front as maid of honor, watching guests file in. Extended family, Millie's college friends, Brian's work colleagues. Every single person who'd heard about last night. I could feel their eyes on me. Sympathetic glances, whispered comments. But also respect. Admiration, even. I'd done what many of them had been too afraid to do, called out a cheater publicly, with evidence, and refused to be gaslit into silence. Security stood at the entrance, Justin's photo on their phones. But he never showed. Neither did Dakota. They'd finally understood they weren't welcome. Everett sat in the family section, my mother having insisted he stay for the wedding. "You're part of this story now," she told him. "And besides, you deserve to see something beautiful after all that ugliness." The ceremony was perfect. Millie floated down the aisle in her lace gown, my father crying openly as he gave her away. Brian's vows made everyone tear up. They exchanged rings, kissed, and became husband and wife while 200 people cheered. During the recessional, as I walked back down the aisle with the best man, I caught Everett's eye. He smiled, small, sad, but genuine. We'd made it through the worst. Now we just had to figure out what came next. The reception was in the estate's ballroom, chandeliers and string lights creating a magical atmosphere. Dinner was served, toasts were made. Brian's best man made a joke about last night's rehearsal dinner being a tough act to follow that got nervous laughter from everyone. My own toast focused entirely on Millie and Brian. On their love story, their commitment, their future together. I didn't mention Justin once, though everyone knew the subtext. This is what real love looks like. This is what you fight for. This is what matters. After dinner, during the dancing portion, Everett found me at the bar. "How are you holding up?" he asked. "I've been asked that question about 50 times today. Still don't have a good answer." I sipped champagne that tasted like expensive regret. "You?" "Dakota's moved out. Her mother came and got her this afternoon. Apparently she's going to stay in Richmond for a while. My house feels enormous and empty." Justin's still texting me. Alternating between apologies and anger. He can't decide if he's sorry or if I'm the villain for exposing him. Classic narcissist behavior. They're never actually sorry. They're just sorry they got caught. We watched couples on the dance floor. Millie and Brian swaying together, lost in their own world. My parents dancing like they had at their own wedding 40 years ago. Young and old, all of them believing in love enough to commit to it publicly. "Do you think you'll ever trust anyone again?" Everett asked quietly. "I don't know. Right now the idea of dating sounds exhausting. Having to wonder if every business trip is real, if every late night at work is actually work. How do you trust someone after this? Maybe you don't, fully. Maybe you just trust yourself more. Trust your instincts. Trust what you see instead of what you're told." That resonated. I hadn't trusted my instincts enough at the beginning. I'd seen the red flags, the new gym schedule, the mysterious cologne, the changed behavior, but I'd let Justin convince me I was imagining things. "I'm going to be smarter next time," I said. More observant. Less willing to accept comfortable lies. If there is a next time. If there is a next time. My phone buzzed for the 100th time. Another text from Justin. "I'm at the Marriott in Charlottesville. Room 718. Please come talk to me. I can explain everything." I showed it to Everett. He actually thinks I'm going to leave my sister's wedding reception to meet him at a hotel. The audacity is breathtaking. I typed a response, my fingers steady. "My lawyer will contact you Monday. Do not contact me again." Then I blocked his number. It felt good. Final. Like closing a door I should have locked months ago. "Dance with me," Everett said suddenly. "We survived this week. We should celebrate that." We joined the other couples on the dance floor, two people who'd lost their marriages but found something else in the process. Not romance, nothing like that. But understanding. Solidarity. The knowledge that we weren't alone in our betrayal. Thank you, I said as we swayed to some slow song I didn't recognize. For believing me when I reached out. For being brave enough to do this with me. I couldn't have survived this week without you. Same. You saved me from months more of living that lie. Maybe years. We saved each other. To mutual salvation, he said, raising an imaginary glass. To mutual salvation. The song ended. We separated back to our respective corners of the reception. I found Millie and hugged her tightly, told her how beautiful everything was, how happy I was for her. You're going to be okay, she whispered. I know it doesn't feel like it right now, but you're going to be more than okay. You're going to be free. Free. The word felt foreign and promising at the same time. That night, back in my hotel room with my maid of honor dress hung carefully in the closet and my makeup washed off, I sat on the bed and let myself cry. Not because I missed Justin, I didn't, not really. But because I missed the version of my life where I didn't know he was a liar. The comfortable ignorance. The false security. But I also felt something else. Relief. Anger. Determination. Justin had taken 3 years of my life. He didn't get to take any more. Tomorrow I'd drive back to DC and start the real work of dismantling our marriage. Lawyers. Paperwork. Dividing assets. All the unglamorous aftermath of exposure. But tonight, I was just going to feel everything. The good, the bad, the complicated mixture of grief and liberation. And tomorrow, I'd start building whatever came next. The apartment looked different with Justin's things gone. Lighter somehow, even though I'd removed furniture, not added it. His leather couch, gone. His pretentious abstract art, donated. His collection of books he'd never read but displayed to look intellectual, boxed up and shipped to his new studio apartment in Arlington. What remained was mine. Actually mine. Not ours, not his, just mine. I sat at the kitchen island on a Tuesday morning, coffee steaming beside my laptop, reviewing a contract proposal for work. Normal. Boring. Exactly what I needed. The divorce had been finalized last week. Judge signed the papers, marriage dissolved, 3 years reduced to legal documents in a manila folder. Justin had tried to fight for the apartment, claiming he'd contributed to the down payment. My lawyer had presented credit card statements proving I'd paid 87% of our shared expenses for the past 2 years while he spent thousands on hotel rooms and gifts for Dakota. He'd walked away with his car, his clothes, and his guilt. I kept everything else. My phone buzzed. Everett's name appeared on the screen. Coffee this afternoon? Catherine wants to meet you officially. Not as co-conspirators but as actual humans. Catherine. The pediatrician he'd been dating for 2 months now. I'd seen photos, warm smile, kind eyes, the opposite of Dakota in every way. Arlington coffee at 3? I typed back. Perfect. Fair warning, she's going to ask you a million questions. She's fascinated by the whole story. Everyone's fascinated. I'm basically a cautionary tale at DC dinner parties. You're a legend. There's a difference. I smiled despite myself. The story had taken on a life of its own. Someone had written about it on a wedding blog. A TikToker had done a dramatic reading. I'd been contacted by 3 podcasts wanting to interview me about strategic betrayal exposure. I declined them all. The point wasn't fame. It was freedom. Work kept me busy through the morning. Conference calls, budget reviews, the mundane tasks that proved life continued after your marriage exploded. My coworker had asked me out twice. I'd said no both times, but gently. I wasn't ready. Maybe wouldn't be ready for a long time. At 2:45, I grabbed my coat and walked to Arlington Coffee. The December air was sharp and clean, Christmas decorations already appearing in shop windows. Last year at this time, Justin had been planning our holiday party, texting Dakota between ordering catering and choosing wine. This year, I was planning nothing. And it felt perfect. Everett was already there when I arrived, seated at a corner table with a woman who looked exactly like her photos. Catherine stood when she saw me, extending her hand. Chelsea. I've heard so much about you. All good things, I promise. Most people have heard about me, I said, shaking her hand. Usually the dramatic parts. The parts where you brilliantly expose two cheaters with receipts and coordinated timing? Catherine grinned. Those dramatic parts. We sat down, ordered coffee, and fell into easy conversation. Catherine was funny and direct, asking questions about the planning process like she was studying for an exam. I need to know, she said after our drinks arrived. When did you know for absolute certain? Like, when did suspicion become conviction? The National Harbor photo, I said. When I saw Justin's jacket reflected in Dakota's Instagram post. That's when I knew I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. I was just married to a liar. And that's when you contacted Everett? That's when I started planning. Contacted him 2 weeks later. Everett squeezed Catherine's hand. Best message I ever received. Saved me from months more of living that lie. He talks about you like you're a superhero, Catherine said to me. The woman who had the courage to burn it all down and start over. I'm not a superhero. I'm just someone who got tired of being lied to. That's the same thing, I think. We talked for 2 hours. About the aftermath, the divorce proceedings, the social fallout. Catherine wanted to know everything, not from morbid curiosity but genuine interest. She'd been cheated on in her 20s, had confronted her ex privately, and he'd convinced everyone she was unstable. I wish I'd had your courage, she admitted. I wish I'd made him face consequences publicly instead of letting him control the narrative. You had different circumstances, I said. There's no right way to handle betrayal. Just the way that lets you survive it. We parted ways as the winter sun set, promising to do this again soon. As I walked back to my apartment, passing couples doing their Christmas shopping and families heading to early dinners, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Content. Not happy, exactly. Not healed. But content. Moving forward instead of staying frozen in the wreckage of what Justin had destroyed. My phone buzzed. A text from Millie. Dinner this weekend? Want to hear about your coffee date with Everett's girlfriend? She's lovely. Dinner sounds perfect. I climbed the stairs to my apartment, not ours, and unlocked the door to my space, my rules, my life. And for the first time since that Friday dinner when Justin announced Dakota was coming to the wedding, I felt like myself again. Scared, sometimes. Angry, often. But myself. And that was enough. Everett texted Sunday morning from his now empty house, first morning waking up alone in 3 years. It's weird. But also, quiet. Peaceful, even. Thank you for giving me my life back. Thank you for being brave enough to stand with me, I replied. Team betrayal survivors forever. Forever. 3 more months had passed since that December coffee with Catherine and Everett. Spring had come and gone, bringing with it the finalization of the divorce and the sale of the apartment. Now summer hit DC like a promise. I stood in the doorway of my apartment, soon to be my former apartment, looking at all the boxes stacked against the walls. Everything I owned, packed and labeled, ready for the move to a townhouse in Capitol Hill I'd closed on last week. Fresh start. New neighborhood. No memories of Justin in any of the rooms. My phone rang. Millie's name flashed across the screen. Please tell me you're not backing out of tonight, she said without greeting. Tonight. The 6-month anniversary dinner she'd insisted on hosting. A celebration of survival, she'd called it. Her and Brian, me and Everett, plus Catherine and apparently someone Millie thought I should meet. I'm not backing out. Just finishing packing. Good. Because I invited someone. Don't be mad. Who? A friend of Brian's. Architect. Divorced 2 years ago. Very normal, very boring, very honest. His name is Jasper Beck. I almost laughed. After 6 months of well-meaning friends trying to set me up, Millie was still at it. I'm not ready to date. I know. That's why this is perfect. He's not ready either. His ex-wife cheated on him with his business partner. You two can bond over trust issues and then never speak again. Or, fall in love. Whatever. You're insufferable. I'm optimistic. There's a difference. See you at 7. Wear something nice. She hung up before I could protest further. I spent the afternoon packing the last of my kitchen, wrapping dishes in newspaper, taping boxes with more force than necessary. The apartment echoed, nearly empty now, stripped of the life Justin and I had built here. Or the life I'd thought we were building while he was actually building something else entirely with Dakota. I'd heard through mutual acquaintances that they weren't together anymore. The affair hadn't survived exposure. Apparently Dakota blamed Justin for being too obvious, for pushing to bring her to the wedding. Justin blamed Dakota for accepting the invitation. They'd imploded spectacularly 3 weeks after the rehearsal dinner, and now they were both single and miserable in separate parts of the city. I felt nothing about it. No satisfaction, no vindication. Just, nothing. They'd already taken enough of my emotional energy. They didn't get any more. At 6:30, I changed into a sundress, something light and yellow that I'd never have worn when married to Justin because he preferred me in darker colors. Drove to Millie and Brian's house in Bethesda, taking side streets through neighborhoods I'd never explored during my marriage. The dinner party was already in full swing when I arrived. Everett and Catherine on the back patio with drinks, Brian manning the grill, and Millie in the kitchen putting finishing touches on some elaborate salad. And standing by the counter, helping her chop vegetables, was a man I vaguely recognized from one of Brian's stories. Tall, dark-haired, with the kind of tired eyes that suggested he'd seen some things and survived them. Jasper Beck, Millie said brightly. Meet my sister, Chelsea. We shook hands. His grip was firm but not aggressive. The famous Chelsea. Millie's told me the story. Very impressive strategic planning. The famous Jasper, I countered. I heard your ex-wife and business partner are still running your old firm into the ground. He laughed. Last I heard, they're 6 months behind on projects and bleeding clients. Karma's been productive. We fell into easy conversation. Not flirting, exactly. Just two people who'd been through similar betrayals comparing notes on survival. He'd caught his ex through suspicious credit card charges and a private investigator. Less dramatic than my approach, but equally effective. Do you ever miss it? He asked as we sat down for dinner. The marriage, I mean. Not the person, but the idea of it. I thought about it, really thought about it. I miss believing someone chose me. That feeling of being someone's person. But I don't miss the actual marriage. That was built on lies. You can't miss something that was never real. That's exactly it, he said quietly. I grieved for 6 months, and then I realized I was grieving for a fiction. The woman I thought I married didn't exist. Across the table, Everett caught my eye and smiled. He understood. We both did. You don't mourn the loss of liars. You mourn the loss of who you thought they were. Dinner stretched into dessert, then coffee, then wine on the patio under string lights. Jasper told stories about architectural disasters. Catherine shared hospital horror stories. Brian burned marshmallows for s'mores while Millie documented everything on her phone. Normal. Easy. The kind of evening I'd forgotten existed. As the night wound down and guests prepared to leave, Jasper handed me his card. I'm teaching a workshop on historic architecture next month. Public lecture series at Georgetown. If you're interested, I'd love to see you there. As friends. No pressure. As friends, I agreed, tucking the card into my purse. Driving home through quiet DC streets, I thought about the past 6 months. The divorce, the apartment sale, the slow process of rebuilding a life I could trust. It hadn't been easy. Some days I still woke up angry. Some nights I still cried over the time I'd wasted on someone who didn't deserve it. But I was free. Truly, completely free. Free from lies. Free from wondering where Justin really was. Free from checking credit card statements and Instagram locations and making myself small to accommodate his deception. The townhouse would be mine by next week. New address, new neighborhood, new start. And maybe, eventually, when I was ready, new relationship. One built on honesty instead of performance. On trust earned through consistency, not demanded through manipulation. Justin had taken 3 years of my life. But he didn't get to take any more. I pulled into my apartment building's parking garage for one of the last times, grabbed my purse, and headed upstairs. Tomorrow I'd finish packing. Next week I'd move. Next month I'd maybe go to Jasper's lecture, or maybe I wouldn't. The choice was mine. Finally, completely mine. And that was the best revenge of all, not destroying Justin's life, but building my own. Better, stronger, more honest than anything we'd had together. I unlocked my apartment door, stepped into the echo of almost empty rooms, and smiled. This was just the beginning. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.